What's up YouTube, Jeff back again from DopeTechDaily.com. Today I'm bringing you guys my comparison of the LG G6 and the Samsung Galaxy S8. Now I want to start off talking about the build quality of the two phones. Obviously they both have this all metal and glass build. Personally I think both phones look great this year. LG did a great job of bringing things close to Samsung. They really brought things up and made it look great this year. Now obviously the Galaxy S8 is a little bit thinner in the side profile than the G6. They're very similar in height. The screen area, obviously, on the S8 is a little bit larger because it does have that taller aspect ratio. It's also got a 5.8-inch diagonal versus the 5.7-inch diagonal on the LG G6, but they are very comparable in terms of size. Now, the Galaxy S8 feels a little more like an all-glass slab because of the curved edges. You're going to notice that it doesn't feel as much like you're holding any metal here, whereas the LG G6, it's got a substantial metal side. When you grip the phone in your hand, you're going to feel that metal. Now, when it comes to build quality, it really comes down to whether or not you like the curved edges of the Galaxy S8, or if you prefer having flat edges like on the LG G6. Personally, I like the aesthetic and also the feel in the hand of the curved edges, but if you like to use a glass screen protector, there really aren't any available for curved screens. The LG G6 might be better for you, and I think that's a reason that a lot of people are choosing the G6. The next thing that I want to talk about is the fingerprint scanner placement. Now this has been a hot topic with the LG G6 versus the Galaxy S8. The LG G6 has the rear mounted centered fingerprint scanner. The Galaxy S8 has one here that's to the right of the camera. For me, I have gotten used to using the Galaxy S8 scanner, but it's not ideal. When I pick up the LG G6 and I use the scanner, it's much better, much more comfortable. It's much easier for me to always hit the scanner and be very accurate. When I use the Galaxy S8, often I either miss the scanner or I hit the camera and end up smudging the lens. It's not the best thing overall. Now the Galaxy S8 does have iris and facial recognition here on the front if you want to use that, so the scanner may not be a huge deal to you, but if you're someone like me with glasses, those features are not that accurate and I'd rather use the fingerprint scanner. The LG G6, in my opinion, has the ideal placement for a rear-mounted scanner. The next thing I want to talk about is the display on both of these phones. You've got an IPS LCD display on the G6. You've got the Super AMOLED display on the Galaxy S8. The LG G6 does have truer colors out of the box with the color profile, but you can adjust your color profile on the Galaxy S8. There have been reports of this red tint issue, which I addressed in one of my previous videos. You can adjust the red levels within the adaptive display settings. All you got to do is scroll down. Here you're going to go to settings when you go to display, and then you can change here, go to adaptive display, you go to color balance, you can scale down the red if you need to. Now Samsung has also released an update in Korea that allows you to further adjust the balance, but so far from what I've seen, it doesn't get rid of the red issue if you have a really overly red display. I highly recommend you return it if you're unhappy with the redness on your display. You're likely still within your return period right now. Now, comparing the brightness, obviously the Super AMOLED display, much brighter than the LG G6 LCD. The LCD on the G6, though, is fantastic, one of the best I've seen in terms of brightness, viewing angles, etc. The viewing angles are slightly better on the Galaxy S8, and also when you use the always-on display mode, you're going to save more battery on the AMOLED display versus the LCD. Overall, with the display technology, if you add in the fact that the Galaxy S8 has HDR support as well, I do give the edge to the Galaxy S8 in the display category. The next thing I want to talk about is performance. Both phones very snappy with their performance. You've got a Snapdragon 821 in the LG G6 versus the 835 in the Galaxy S8. If you're just running day-to-day tasks like opening up the gallery, opening up Chrome, Hangouts, opening up your browser, you're opening up Gmail, they both run pretty much the same if you're opening up these stock sort of apps. They're both very fast at quick launching, scrolling through things, no lag really. If you compare it to the Pixel, you're going to notice a few stutters here and there due to the customized versions of Android, which we'll talk about in a second. But if you just compare them side by side, they're pretty much equal with day-to-day tasks. Where you're going to notice the difference with the Galaxy S8 is if you do a whole lot of gaming, playing things like Vainglory or other intensive games, you're going to notice they load a little faster, they're a little smoother, but I haven't had any major drop frames with the LG G6, Snapdragon 821. One other place I do believe that the Galaxy S8 excels with the processor is the 835 seems to be a little more efficient. You do get a little better battery life. I get about 4.5 to 5 hours screen on time with my S8, and I get about maybe 4 to 4.5 with the LG G6. It's a slight advantage, but for my day-to-day usage where I'm answering a ton of YouTube messages and, maybe taking 10 to 15 pictures, watching some YouTube videos, scrolling social media like Twitter, scrolling my Feedly feed, etc. It's pretty heavy usage, and I get better battery life from the Galaxy S8 that could have something to do with the Snapdragon 835. The next thing I want to talk about is the software. Both of the phones and manufacturers have improved their software over time. LG now has this stock configuration here where all the apps are on the front of your, like an iPhone sort of setup, but you can get an app drawer back in the settings. Samsung by default has this nice app drawer where you swipe up and swipe down. Personally, I think Samsung has added more innovation to their operating system while still toning down some of that sort of in-your-face TouchWiz features and services of the past. That one place you can see that is if you look in the settings menu of these two phones, you'll see that the Galaxy S8 just overall is more toned down in terms of the colorfulness. It's a little bit easier to use and better organized in my opinion. In terms of software, I highly prefer what Samsung has done. Hopefully LG will improve their software further next year because they've really made some great hardware to go along with it. The next thing I want to talk about is the camera. Obviously on the LG G6, you have the dual camera setup with the wide angle lens and then the standard shooter as well. This year they brought the megapixel count equal on the two, so they both take amazing low light shots. The Galaxy S8 does not have a dual camera, but it does have an amazing low light 12 megapixel sensor from Sony with some new software enhancements as well. When you compare the two cameras, and I'm going to do a full camera comparison video, so I'm going to make this a little briefer than I normally would. The advantage of the LG G6 is that it takes some shots that are a little truer to life in terms of the color. It also takes better macro shots. When I've taken macros with the Galaxy S8, you do see a little bit of blurriness, especially when you take them at night. And I actually posted some examples over on my Twitter. If you want to check out the links below, all those pictures are there, and also on my Instagram, my photos feed. If you take portrait shots, the Galaxy S8 and the G6 are very comparable in the daylight. They just happen to handle color slightly differently. The LG G6, of course, excels if you really want to take those wide-angle shots and also wide-angle selfies, whereas the Galaxy S8 is really, really good if you take sort of portraits and selfies at night in low light. The Galaxy S8 is great for that. One of the reasons the front-facing selfie camera is so good on the Galaxy S8, if you go into the camera, is because the Galaxy S8 does have autofocus on the front-facing camera. So you can actually take selfies that are nice and autofocus. It's very good at facial tracking when using the front-facing camera. I do give the advantage in terms of the UI to the LG G6. They've made better use of the extra tall aspect ratio. You can see they've got a little camera roll right there on the side. The Galaxy S8 doesn't make that great of use of that extra screen real estate. You do have some options and toggles there on the side, but I definitely like this little camera roll to see some enlarged sort of previews of the photos that you've taken. So overall, when it comes to the camera, for me, I take a lot more shots in low light. So the Galaxy S8 is ahead slightly, but this year it's a much better battle than it has been in the past. Last year, the Galaxy S7 blew the LG G5 out of the water, in my opinion. This year, it's sort of neck and neck, really is feature dependent depending on what you need. The next thing I want to talk about are the advanced features that are available on both of the phones. Now in this case, Samsung sort of destroys LG in terms of useful features. You've got the edge screen right here. You can get your apps edge, smart select, all those sort of things. You've got the iris scanning, you've got the facial detection, you've got the HDR display, as I mentioned before. So the list goes on and on when it comes to Samsung blowing them out of the water. You got the curved screen if that's a feature that you like. Overall, Samsung loads up on the features. That's one of the reasons their phones are so expensive. LG sort of went back to basics this year. They made a phone that has much less features. Last year they tried to do the modularity thing, but this year they went back to basics. They made a phone that has fewer features, but it operates really well. So if you're looking for those huge feature sets, aside from the dual camera, there aren't really any major fancy features that LG has added this year. No gimmicks, which I think is a good thing. But Samsung has gotten really good at adding quote-unquote gimmicks that people really like. Things like facial recognition, iris scanning, etc. The next thing are software updates. Both of these companies have gotten better with software updates. You're still not going to get the same level of update support you would get from Google. Obviously, last year the Galaxy S7 Edge and the Galaxy S7 took about 5 or 6 months to get Android 7.0 after it arrived. You'll probably wait the same amount of time to get 8.0 on these phones next year, but they do give about 2 years of update support for their flagships, so I think that's pretty reasonable. Samsung and LG have got better about that. Google actually posted their end-of-life cycle for the Pixel, and you're only going to get 2 years of guaranteed updates for the Pixel as well. So you're not losing anything, you're just going to get updates a little slower. If you're an Android fanboy or enthusiast, that might be important to you. Otherwise, it might not be. The last thing is the value of the two phones. When it comes down to value, the G6 is $650 in the US. The Galaxy S8, the smaller one, is $750. The G6 actually went on sale today for $599. I'll drop a link below. I'd say the value proposition, the G6 is a great deal. If you're looking for the cheapest high-end flagship and you don't want to sacrifice a lot of features, I would go with the G6. If you need all those super feature-packed flagship that has every feature possible, the Galaxy S8 is really the way to go. You're going to pay a little extra money. Another thing to consider is that the Galaxy S8 also has more accessories available because they're sort of sold in a higher volume. A lot more of Galaxy S8s get sold than LG G6s, that's a fact. So you have a lot more options when it comes to cases, tempered glass, etc. But the tempered glass on the curved edges is garbage, so if you really want tempered glass, you kind of have to go with the G6. When it comes down to me, which one would I choose? Right now, I'm leaning towards the Galaxy S8, and I'll tell you guys why. Even though I'm a little annoyed with the fingerprint scanner, I take a lot of low light photos at night, etc. The S8's been a little bit better. I also happen to use Samsung Pay, which is another one of those features that Samsung loads up on that makes it a really appealing flagship. And then the last reason that the Galaxy S8 is appealing to me is in Arizona we have really, really bright days, and I really need that AMOLED display because it's difficult sometimes to see an LCD phone outside here in the bright sun. So that's my full comparison of the G6 and the S8, giving you a rundown on what I think is important about these two flagships. I will have a full camera comparison of these two phones as well as the Pixel XL, the Huawei P10 Plus. Please like and subscribe if you guys want to see that. Find me at dopetechdaily.com, Google+, Instagram, and Twitter at the links in the description. I really appreciate you guys checking out this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.